Welcome to the Unstoppable Success podcast, where we spotlight visionary leaders who have mastered the art of growth, purpose, and powerful connections. I'm your host, Jacqueline Strominger, connector, high performance coach, and creator of the Leap to Your Success framework and 2 Steps to Yes. Each week, we dive into bold insights, real conversations, and powerful strategies to fuel your growth, deepen your relationships, and ignite transformational momentum. And why? Because you were meant to be unstoppable. Now, let's leap into the podcast. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of Unstoppable Success. And as you know, on this podcast, we hear from amazing people in the world who have had amazing success and are great leaders and have amazing ways that you can learn and have nuggets so that you can go from unstoppable success to truly amazing growth and even more success and keep that momentum going. So let me introduce you to our guest today. It is Dr. Joseph Droll Shagen, and I keep wanting to say it the German way because I pronounce it so many times. So, but let me tell you a little bit about, and as I'm going to call him Dr. J. He has been featured, obviously, on all the great places like Fox, NBC, CBS, and USA, along with being named one of the top business coaches in America for 5 consecutive years in the New York City Journal, Disruptors Magazine, and as of February 2025 in Enterprise World. Dr. J is the rapid growth specialist. He has over 28 years in corporate America, from VP of sales up to, and his doctorate in psychology with extensive studies and knowledge of mindset. And he has assisted multiple organizations experiencing bankruptcy back into profitability, along with creating innovative systems that bring about massive results, both personally and professionally. And right now, he also is going to share his wisdom, and he has a great new book out, which he will talk about as well. So anyway, Dr. J, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be here with you. I'm glad that you have to do all that bio stuff and I don't.
Blah, 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 blah.
You did great. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here with you, Jacqueline.
So first of all, I love your energy, which is so important for people to have. And what I would love for you to share is, you are talking about rapid growth, and we're talking about success. So how do people have rapid growth?
Yeah, that's as far as the energy. I don't rarely meet people that top my energy, but you've got that. You've got that going for you. Yeah, rapid growth is it usually something within inside of us that stirs it, a bottoming, an upset, struggle for so too long and things like that. And we just can't stand living that way anymore. And that's, I know how it happened for me as well. And once, so what I say is we become teachable at that point. Because up until then, we're laying out our pathways, our strategies, our to-do lists, and if it's not working, we put more hours, more effort, more time into it, and such. But then we get to that place where it's like, man, it's just not working, and it's usually not long before the F it, I give up, I quit, and I'm going to go do something else. Yes, or tab out. but yeah, it's usually not much before that. And then what happens in that process is, so we're doing everything we can think to do. We're going about the way we think we're supposed to, right? And so we're investing in things that are telling us do A, B, and C to get D, and we do it more, and we do it more, and we do it more, but we're not seeing the changes in the results. And so we just get to that point of frustration, fed up, and all that stuff. And the moment we go, I don't know how to do this, we literally unlock a vault to be shown the pathway of how to do it.
So you just described the definition of insanity, correct?
It is.
Right?
It is.
You're doing the same thing over and over and over again, thinking that you're going to try to get the same results, and you keep doing more and
different
more
results. Yes.
You're not going to, you think I'm going to get different results, and you don't.
Yes.
And you hit that point.
Yeah. Yeah. People with addiction. I mean, it's so widespread. People with addiction go through the same thing, where they keep using, and there's that almost like with our trying to be successful in business or entrepreneurs, and all in a lot of entrepreneurs don't even live as entrepreneurs. They try to figure out the systematic way of doing it. That's not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur goes with the flows and they go with the stream, and the creativity and all that stuff in there. When you start implementing too many systems into it, you take that away from it. And that's no longer that's what I call old corporate. Because that's what corporate America was like. And so when we're going through this, when we just get it, but when we get into that flow, all of a sudden, we all talk about coincidences, right? We overhear something that we need to hear. I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning with a thought of on my mind, and I literally sprung out of bed, came in here, didn't even make my coffee or use the bathroom or anything. Came in here, fired up my computer and everything. I'm sitting here for about a minute, going, "Okay, I gotta slow down a little bit." Go get some coffee on, but so much stuff flows like that. And so we'll overhear something somebody will say, or we'll read something or see something on TV, whatever it is, and we hear this thing and it answers exactly what we want. But when we're in that mode of pushing, trying to make it happen, we don't even notice those things are going on all around us. And what I do, what I've experienced, what my clients experience, what's tied throughout the SMT method is that we can utilize those so-called coincidences, which I don't really call them coincidences. We can utilize those as the system to know they will show up, to know they will guide our pathway. And so we can focus much more on what it is I want to achieve and expanding that. I'm really big into asking for the impossible. So many people are going through this process of life and they're trying to get there, and it's not their own fault, but they're trying to get there. And they end up living on minuscule scraps of what's available to them. And they honestly, when I talk to people, they don't know why. And so when you can help somebody open that up and understand that, now all of a sudden they can start shifting, and all of a sudden they'll start seeing things happening. And as things happen, then we start growing in our mind and the possibilities and all of that, and you see it expand. And ultimately, what I do is I help people take the conscious mind, which is what we're focused on. The words we use, thoughts we entertain, the words, the way we talk about ourselves, who we hang out with, watch, all that stuff. But the knowing of what we want is in our conscious mind. And one of my mentors, late Bob Proctor, taught me this. And then we have the subconscious mind. And all the subconscious mind does is absorbs. But it's really important to understand there's this, what I call a motherboard in our subconscious that hosts all of our programming, our patterns, our paradigms, our experiences, even experiences maybe we didn't have, Jacqueline, but somebody told us about, and it gets embedded into that network. Well, why that's important is because that subconscious is what triggers brain waves to the actions we take or don't take. So you have the knowing of what you want, and you can have all kinds of clarity on that. But if your programming is working against you, and this is exactly how I went into adulthood experiencing, it doesn't trigger the brain waves to the actions that will help align those two. So what we do is we identify what those are, shift those things, and all of a sudden we start noticing we're more in alignment with what we want and the actions we're taking, and all of a sudden we start noticing the huge changes on our exterior.
There's, as you're talking, I love what you're talking about, because the mind is so flippin' powerful, right? And we forget that we all have all these lenses that we have developed from our experiences in life. And we have to sometimes learn to shift the color of the lens. Yes. And see what we're seeing so that we could see things differently. And it is truly amazing that when you can go from that point of having everything turned off because you're so because you're so almost like busy with whatever the busyness is, and you haven't slowed down. But when you can slow down and you can sort of like almost like smell the roses, it's amazing what comes to you. As you were saying, it's like you can start hearing those things, the creativity comes back. When you can take these lovely instruments and put them away, and you just can sit there and be.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm fortunate. I get to live in the mountains, South Carolina, all the way to the west side of the state. And so I spend a lot of time just walking in nature, sitting in nature, trout fishing on beautiful trout streams, or not even fishing, just sitting there and stuff. And the more time I do that, the more it aligns. And almost every business owner I work with, I have to get them to throttle back a little bit from what they're doing to get into alignment with this stuff, to even just to notice what what they're being triggered from their subconscious mind, so they can be aware of it. So in doing that, and you said something absolutely beautiful when you talked about that, the color of the lens. I call that perceptions. And if we want to change our results in what we're experiencing in life, we have to shift our perceptions. The only way I know to do it, let alone quickly and long term, is we have to identify and shift the programming that's leading to those perceptions, that's then leading to our experience.
Yep. Okay, so I want to share something, but this is, when I keep thinking about lenses and changing our perception, it's so important. So the movie, oh my God, Treasure, whatever.
Indiana Jones?
No, Nicolas Cage.
I remember the movie, not the name.
Oh my God, I love the movie and I cannot think of it. Anyway, but he's like he's in Philadelphia and they get Ben Franklin's glasses and they're looking at the Declaration of Independence, and it's like, oh, and they start to shift the lenses and they see the different patterns. And that's what, like, I love that you can help people see things through different lenses and change that perspective, because it does. All of a sudden, the whole world, opens up.
Yes. Changes. It does. Absolutely. It shifts, and an example of that. And our programming is unique to the individual. So that's why I'm not a big advocate of one size fit all programs, do A, B, and C and get to D, because we're all unique individuals. I have 4 siblings. Whenever we've gotten together or get together and talk about like the camping trips and the different vacations we've been on together as a family, there's 5 different stories of that. Because we all have our own unique programming, which leads to our own unique the way we see it and stuff, perceptions of how we see it.
It is so true. It is so true. That is so true, because it's also like, you could say like two people grow up in the same household. How can they be so different? It's you're in the same household, but you're experiencing things differently. And you see things differently
because we're processing them differently, because we're unique.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I've really been a huge advocate as I started learning and understanding the whole thing about the subconscious and things like that, is that whatever I do, I want it to be, because I used to take those one size fit all programs like the ABC to get to D, and I'd walk away going, man, there must be something the matter with me, because I didn't get near what they talk about people getting out of it. Well, then once I started understanding, I needed something that worked for me and my uniqueness. I had to quit caring what everybody else does and look at me and what do I need? And as I start doing that, that's how I start forming. And that's what I help clients do today is let's identify, there is no one pathway that works for everybody. It's impossible for that to happen. So let's find your unique pathway that just freaking rockets you into the results you want to get and beyond a lot of times.
That's awesome. So what is the SMT? Because method. Because
it was hard to finish that, wasn't it?
Before Dr. J and I were talking before show, and I added a letter in there because if you do any email programming stuff, there's another letter in some of that stuff. So I'm stopping.
Well, it was probably really, really wrong of me to just let you hang with that too, wasn't it? But it was fun, Jack. I had a good time there. Thanks for the chuckles. So SMT method stands for subconscious mindset training. And it's all about identifying the programming that's going on under the surface within that subconscious motherboard. And once we identify it now with the SMT method, we have tools to quickly shift that, which then quickly change perceptions and then open up avenues to achieve greater results for the same amount of effort or less.
Oh, okay. So I like that. So for same amount of efforts or less, people like that. So your new book, Reprogramming Your Subconscious Mind, the SMT, I just said it, the SMT method, sorry, SMT method. See?
Me too.
This is what happens. For rapid growth. So we grab the book and people get the book, will they be able
Mhm.
to walk themselves through the method so that they can sort of reprogram their subconscious themselves?
So that I designed and wrote the book. It explains the method, but it's literally what I take my clients through.
Okay.
Is a process. My hopes in the book is that it opens up blinders for a lot of people just to realize there's something going on they're not aware of, so they can start noticing that and start bringing about changes. And one of the things that was important for me to do in this book is it's not included in the book, but I have a link that's at the end of almost every chapter that you can go to, and there's exercises to practice so you can start seeing change happening in those areas. You can start noticing it. You can start, walking through some tools as far as shifting those perceptions and start noticing a change.
I like that. So I like the fact that you have that the book comes with exercises, because that, I think, is one of the things that happens with a lot of books, that you will read something
Yes.
and they'll be, it'll say, okay, now get out a piece of paper, or you need to do this, but people don't necessarily always do it because
Right.
but being able to give them the actual exercise to do it
Yeah.
is really great.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually thought about writing in the book in like the beginning of chapter 3, like, before you read this, please show me your works in chapter 2.
Accountability, right? It's that accountability part, right? Yeah, prove
but
it.
but
Prove
yeah,
it.
it is, and it's a way of doing it, and it's not really exhaustive, and but it really pointed to help focus in this. Find that item and then focus on that item. What's going on in your thinking about that item, and that right away, and then I help them to point out how is it working for you or against you. The ones that are working against you is programming you don't need anymore.
Right. So you, and that's true. Like, once you've gotten when you've moved to one place, you can keep moving on, but you don't have to go back.
Yes,
You know.
yes.
So, you have had amazing success. You know, you started in sales. So how did you become the success and drive your growth?
It's This is the whole thing with anybody's pathway. It's not really a logical process. Like, honestly, Jacqueline, I shouldn't be here talking with you today. I shouldn't be doing the things I've done. I shouldn't have been on magazines. I shouldn't have wrote a book. I shouldn't impact people's lives. I shouldn't have, because when I grew up in a very low income family in Detroit, Michigan, watching struggle in everything, uh, I didn't. I was told growing up numerous times from numerous people, there's people meant to work with their head and people meant to work with their hands, and you're going to work with your hands. So I never really applied myself in school. As soon as I graduated high school, I went to a factory and got a job cleaning out old mucky oil from machines and things like that and stuff, and I thought that was my lot in life, and I was just going to do that. And when I was 22 years old, I had a gentleman approach me. He was kind of a mentor. I saw much, much higher than I would ever go and stuff. But he was getting ready to retire, and he owned a multi-million-dollar construction company, and he wanted me to take over the business. He wasn't going to sell it to me, so I didn't have to come up with a loan and stuff like that. He knew me well and in my situation, so I was going to take it over, and over a 7-year period, share residual, revenues as they come in with him for 7 years. And that was the most exciting day in my life. Like, I felt like somebody believed in me beyond what I ever thought possible. 3 days later, I told him I can't do that. And I probably should have explained it because he could help me see it different. But the reason I said that is because I felt so much guilt going through my whole being that I didn't work hard enough to earn that. So I don't deserve it. And that's at the point when I said that, and a couple other things happening is when I said, man, there's something really wrong with me. And I don't know what it is, but I so badly want to find it out. And it's been a 4-decade journey into
So,
leading to all this stuff.
so did you, so what happened after that? Did you decide, I'm going to go to school? I'm going to,
No, no, I was lost, completely lost. And then I started out getting counseling, trying to figure out what it was. And they didn't hit on that core of things like that and stuff. And I did that for a few years. And then from there I ended up meeting a guy who was a very wealthy person, and he grew up around where I did. Same kind of neighborhood and stuff. And similar to how I did. And he was a multi-millionaire in the pharmaceutical industry, a very high level, I won't say his name, a very high level person in Pfizer and places like that and stuff. And we just got to know each other. And he's not somebody I would have picked to hung around with because I thought they were so high above me and such. But we hung out and stuff. And over a matter of about 5 months or 6 months, he saw again somebody, he saw something in me. And so he would just start talking about, man, if you could have any job, or if you had, a job, and he wanted me to go into sales. And it's the last thing I ever wanted to do was go into sales because I had that view of the, perception of a used car salesman and stuff. And so anyway, so he ended up talking me into interviewing and stuff like that. And what hooked me is when he got me to say, if I ever got into white collar America, I would love to have a company car and a laptop computer. My first corporate job had a company car and a laptop computer. And then that got me started. Then I went into sales and I never expected to do even struggled in that for a long time. And then I started diving deeper and deeper and deeper. And at some point I came across the subconscious mind in all the studies I was doing. We talked about with books. I used to read a book all the way through, and then I would go back and create experiments to do with that book. But all of it was trying to figure out what was the matter with me. So that added another level of complexity to it. So then as I started doing sales and I went from barely getting by, traveling 3,000 to 5,000 miles a week, building the territories, to understanding this, to identifying it, and then going out and find somebody who could help, which was very difficult to find somebody who had the understanding of, you got the Neville Goddards and, Bob Proctors and things like that stuff, but there wasn't many of them. And so then as I started learning that within a year, I went from barely getting by to landing 18, 22, $25 million year over year contracts for companies and doubling company sizes and things like that with what I was doing. So that ended up elevating me up into vice director, sales manager, and then vice president positions and stuff. And then later on, I would help organizations in bankruptcy get back to profitability. And that was a 28-year period that happened. And I've always had this desire in my heart to help them.
Do? Because you don't really look like you're that old.
Thank you. I started when I was 2.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. Thought you were lying.
Yes. My God. Yeah. No, thank you for saying that. So, but then so as I did that and stuff, and then in the corporate job, the last organization that was in bankruptcy, and I was part of the team to bring back profitability and such. My dad had passed away of cancer. Oh. And then a year later, 56 years of marriage, my mom passed away. She just, natural causes, she just didn't want to be alive without him. Oh. And I found myself an orphan with this big desire on my heart to help people. And I knew I was in that way, but it didn't match the size of, what I felt, what my purpose was. And I just said, I don't know exactly how. Now at that point I had 2 certifications into what I do today, and I was going through the education stuff and things like that. And I said, when we get new owners in this organization, I'm done. And so we got new owners. A week later, I resigned, moved down here to South Carolina, and I started going out, giving out 5 business cards a day with introducing myself to people. That's how I started this build.
That's awesome.
I shouldn't be here.
But
if you look at statistics,
but you should be there because when you say you shouldn't, that's in your brain. So you should be because it's
when I said a few minutes ago, Jacqueline, that it doesn't make logical sense.
Right.
That's the shouldn't be here part. Because logically, if you look at only logic, it doesn't make sense. And so we have to step outside of logic to achieve what we really want to achieve, what we truly desire in our heart to achieve, and the level we desire to achieve it. It's not going to come from logic. It's not going to come from strategy alone. It's not going to come from to-do lists. It's not going to come from following what Pete down the street did or anybody else. It's not going to be a logical pathway.
The word logic is kind of an interesting word too. Right. Okay. Because when I hear it, like, you think it's true. It's like, it doesn't take a lot. It's not a logical pathway because a pathway is never a straight up. It doesn't just go, we don't always, you still don't start here and go from point A to point B as an upline. You're zigging and zagging, and it's up, and it's the intermoving of your journey that happens to take you, up and down mountains, up and down stairs, zigging and zagging. And I was listening to a book this morning, it's the book, Impossible. And one of the things that the author was saying was also is that, successful people, don't have a linear and logical journey. And it is that they have to explore and kind of come to where they are. They find what they truly love and are passionate about, where they can then go and take the direction. But it's never, but you don't think about it like as it's true. It's not the path where we think, oh, he's going to go from point A to point B, logical. He became a doctor, so he's going to obviously practice medicine and see patients. Logically thinking, but maybe they don't.
If you look at the fact of going like, and this is one of the things I work with my clients on, and anybody listening to this like has had a huge, profound impact in my life, and I know people I work with is when we look at something and we go, that's good, man, am I excited that happened? Yeah. Oh, that's terrible. God, I can't believe that happened. If I lived by the judgment of that within myself, I wouldn't be here. Because that judgment, when I say that's bad, everything stops. It can't go any further. But when I look at giving up that construction company, and years later, I looked at that construction company and I went, man, that was a good thing, because that helped build the desire and the passion in my gut to break whatever that was to fix that thing.
Right.
And so what I tell people is you don't know where this is going to end. But I believe, based on my life and my walk in this world, is everything ends up leading to something bigger and better for me, even if it's just a life lesson. And that's with relationships, finances, what we do business wise, like across the board. When we put that judgment on there, I wrote another book called Life's Lessons. And in there, I state very clearly, before it was popular, is when I took the judgment out of what was happening in my life, like it's not good or bad, right, wrong, fair, unfair, or anything else. And if I take on the belief that life happens for me and not to me, then I could start seeing what the lessons were in that. But as long as I had judgment, I could never get through that. Because if something happened bad to me, that means I'm a victim of something. And if I'm a victim, I got nowhere to go.
Right. Yeah. It's and what you just said is, and I think this is, listeners, I think this is something that is really, really important for you to have unstoppable success. You have to make your life happen. Life doesn't happen to you. And it's really important to be able to know that distinction. You don't want to just exist, but you want to live with purpose. And you want to understand that things, happen. Things are not happening. You can make your life happen. They don't happen to you. I mean, if something happens that you don't like, find the good in it. Find the lesson. Find the learning. It's and I'll share this story, which is, one of the things that made a huge change in my life was I was taking my kids to school one morning, and I was on the East Coast, and I'm driving, and it was amazing that I got to where I was going, because it was the car thing, it was not a self-driving car. But it almost was that day, because I was like, something is not right. Something is missing. Like, I literally said to myself, Jacqueline, you have started a point in your life where you are just existing. You're not living.
Oh.
You're not living with purpose. And I remember coming home that day. It was made a huge shift in my life. I remember coming home that day and writing out, like rewriting my purpose and rewriting out my mission and what do I want, and not just the need, but what do I want in my life? And telling my husband, I'm like, we're gonna move. And he's like, what? I go, I'm done with this. Like, I'm done. Like, we're gonna move, and we're not gonna stay where we are, because this is not, we are existing. And life is not about existing.
Yeah. God, you just motivated me.
Right. Well, but yeah, I'm glad I motivated you. But the point is, like, what you're doing too, like, Dr. J, what you're doing is so important to help people because so many of us do go through life existing, and we need
Yes.
to live knowing that even whatever, if you've had
Mhm.
baggage is, yeah, you'll see some lenses through there, but guys, go get the book and rewrite the lenses that you're
Yeah.
seeing and reprogram your mind, because you have to be able to say, draw the line in the sand, say uncle, whatever, do the taps,
Yeah.
and say, today's the day
Yes.
we're making a shift. I'm going to live with purpose. And you know that you're going to wake up every single day living with purpose and being
Yes.
unstoppable and having
And
that.
you don't have to have the full roadmap or plan or action plan or all that to do that. You just got to make the choice, and those things will start showing up for you. And that's how I help companies, organizations rapidly scale. It's I don't have every answer for them as far as you're going to do A, B, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that, and you're going to do this long and that long. And I don't. But what we do is we open up that possibility of that, and as we do, all of a sudden things start showing up and things start flowing and everything else. I love that story you shared, because that's that unconscious. That day you were driving, we live unconsciously, and as we live unconsciously, that pattern, that programming in our subconscious just plays over and over and over, almost like on autopilot, and we're just following it. I had a guy one time that said to me, I don't have any patterns, I don't have those things. And I go, really? Okay, here's what I want you to do tomorrow. And I just thought at the top of my head, when you shower tomorrow, I want you to lather 12 times and be done, and then rinse. He called me back the next day and called me an MF, but he used the real words. And he goes, I did it 12 times and I stopped. And he said, I couldn't do it. I had to go back and finish my pattern. And so, even in things that small, it helps us to identify we have patterns. And then when I could see one of them, then I become more attuned to, well, what else am I saying? What else am I doing? What other things am I doing without even fully realizing, like driving, realizing and I'm doing it fully conscious of it. And we
Right.
could start noticing those things.
Right. It's so true that you just said it, because I'm thinking when you're talking about the washing of the hair, so many times people are like, I have, you subconsciously do a pattern in the shower because you've been doing it for so long, right? It's like
Brushing our teeth, same thing.
right. You do it, you just do it, and it's the days that something goes maybe a little awry, where you're like, you don't have the same amount of time, or something happens, or as you said, there's an instance that somebody experiences
Yes.
something,
Yeah. Breaks that pattern.
right? Like, and it breaks it, and you're like, oh, and then maybe you might even feel weird. You're like, I didn't get to do the whole thing, and you don't feel right. You feel like a little funny because something shifted in the.
Yes. And if you really track that, Jacqueline, if you track that throughout that day, there's other things that will follow that once we open that door up. Depending on how unconsciously somebody's living, they may not even notice that stuff, but there'll be other things like that where it's like, okay, we'll start noticing changes in those patterns, and the way it shows up is discomfort. It feels uneasy. It feels like, well, that's not right. But that's exactly how to get to that other side.
Right.
So, like I told you, as far as like throttling back business owners when I work with them, and they have such a hard time, if people are going, I don't even know if you're the right guy for me. I go, just try it. If I'm not, then you can leave, and whatever, and stuff like that. But everybody who does it in a very short period of time sees the benefit of doing that.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, and I think more listeners, you take the steps to get outside what you do on a day to day, and take what you do unconsciously and break the habit and break the pattern, so that you can start being open to
Yes.
new things coming in and flowing.
Yes.
So I think it's so important. Okay, so Dr. J, tell everybody how they can connect with you, get more of all the greatness.
Anybody can go to coachwithjoey.com, set up a 15-minute call. If there's something that we talked about here, and I tell people whether it's something that you're like, okay, well, how would I apply it here or this or that? That's what the phone call's for. It's not a sales pitch. I don't talk about my programming or anything I do. I might reference the book because it's new. I'm really, really excited about it and stuff, but it's not a sales pitch or anything. And it's really just to serve people. So people can go to coachwithjoey.com and schedule a time with me.
Okay, so we're going to put in the show notes coachwithjoey.com.
Yes.
We will also have a link to your book so people can grab the book. Please, 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 listeners, grab the book. I'm going to go grab the book because I haven't read it yet and I wish I had, but I will read that book and I will do the exercises. Anybody want to do them with me? Just let me know.
Awesome.
But please also do me a favor, connect with Dr. J on socials, go to his website, get that appointment with him so you can have that deeper connection. And listeners, do me one other favor, please hit subscribe and share this episode because I will guarantee you will, when you share this episode, you are going to help more people than you know. So I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening. I'm Jacqueline Strominger, the host of Unstoppable Success. And thank you, Dr. J, for being a great, amazing guest. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Unstoppable Success podcast, where we don't just talk about growth, we leap toward it. If something today lit a fire within you, sparked a new idea, or gave you the extra push forward, please don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode and podcast with a friend, colleague, or fellow high achiever. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and most importantly, connect with me, Jacqueline Strominger, at leaptoyoursuccess.com for coaching, community, and your next bold move. Keep leading with intention, keep building your network with purpose, and most of all, keep leaping because you were meant to be unstoppable.